5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. The matter before the court concerns a dispute arising out of a contractual agreement executed between the parties for the provision of certain services. The claimant alleges breach of contract on the part of the respondent, asserting that the obligations stipulated under the terms were neither performed within the agreed timeline nor to the requisite standard of quality. According to the statement of claim, the claimant avers that an agreement was duly executed following a series of negotiations, which were documented in writing and exchanged via formal correspondence. The claimant submits that, despite several assurances and written commitments, the respondent failed to deliver the services in accordance with the scope defined in the schedule attached to the agreement. The respondent, in its defense, denies the allegations of breach, stating that any delays or deviations in performance were due to factors beyond its control, including logistical challenges and unforeseen constraints. It is further argued that the claimant was aware of such potential hindrances and had implicitly accepted the risk when entering into the agreement. The procedural history indicates that the matter was first brought before the lower forum, where preliminary objections on jurisdiction and maintainability were raised. The lower forum, after hearing both parties, dismissed the objections and proceeded to examine the matter on merits. Evidence was led by both parties, including oral testimony and submission of documentary records, following which a finding was rendered in favor of the claimant. An appeal was then preferred by the respondent, challenging the findings of the lower forum, primarily on the ground that the evidentiary appreciation was flawed and that material documents were overlooked. The appellate forum upheld the decision of the lower forum, albeit on slightly modified grounds, emphasizing that the obligations under the agreement were clear and binding, and that the respondent had failed to discharge the same. Aggrieved by the concurrent findings, the respondent has now approached this court under its revisional jurisdiction, contending that substantial questions of law arise and that there has been a miscarriage of justice. The grounds raised in the revision petition include allegations of procedural irregularity, misapplication of settled legal principles, and failure to consider relevant evidence. During the course of hearing, learned counsel for the petitioner reiterated the submissions made in the courts below, emphasizing the contention that the lower authorities erred in interpreting the clauses of the agreement. It was submitted that the delay in execution of services was attributable to external constraints, including disruptions in supply chain and regulatory delays, which were communicated to the claimant in writing. It was further argued that the claimant, despite being fully aware of the situation, failed to provide the necessary approvals and clearances in a timely manner, which in turn impacted the performance timeline. Reference was made to various internal communications and meeting minutes to demonstrate that the claimant had agreed to revised timelines and had not objected contemporaneously. On the contrary, counsel for the respondent argued that the petitioner's submissions are an afterthought and not borne out by the records. It was contended that the petitioner has failed to produce any cogent evidence to substantiate its claim of external impediments and that the communications relied upon do not amount to a waiver or modification of the original terms. The court has carefully examined the records placed on file, including the pleadings, the documentary evidence, and the orders passed by the forums below. The agreement in question clearly stipulates the scope, deliverables, and timelines and also provides for liquidated damages in the event of non-performance. There is no dispute as to the existence or validity of the agreement. The issue for determination is whether the petitioner has established a justifiable cause for the non-fulfillment of contractual obligations and whether the lower forums erred in concluding otherwise. Upon perusal of the evidence, it is apparent that the petitioner was granted multiple extensions and opportunities to perform its part, but failed to do so within the extended timeline as well. The correspondences cited by the petitioner reflect discussions on delays, but do not conclusively demonstrate that the claimant had accepted such delays without reservation. Furthermore, the minutes of meetings relied upon do not record any formal amendment to the original terms, nor do they contain any express waiver of rights on the part of the claimant. The lower forums, therefore, were justified in holding that the obligations under the agreement remained binding and enforceable, and that non-performance constituted a breach. The contention that the findings suffer from procedural irregularity or misapplication of law is not borne out by the record. Both the lower forums have rendered reasoned decisions, based on appreciation of evidence and application of well-settled principles of contract law. There is no perversity or manifest error that warrants interference under revisional jurisdiction. This court is not inclined to reappreciate the evidence in the absence of any demonstrable illegality or arbitrariness in the orders impugned. The scope of revision is limited to examining the legality and propriety of the proceedings and not to substitute the findings of fact merely because another view is possible. Accordingly, the revision petition fails to make out a case for interference and is dismissed. There shall be no order as to costs. The court further observes that the matter has been pending for considerable time and that both parties may explore the possibility of resolving outstanding claims through mutual settlement. It is clarified that this court has not expressed any opinion on the quantum of damages, which remains subject to adjudication before the appropriate forum, if necessary. All interim orders stand vacated. The court reiterates the importance of adhering to contractual commitments and maintaining transparency during performance. Parties engaging in commercial arrangements must ensure timely communication and documentation of any deviations. Future disputes may be mitigated through clear contractual provisions and proactive dispute resolution mechanisms agreed upon at the outset. Let this serve as a reminder that legal remedies are a last resort, and mutual cooperation remains the cornerstone of enduring professional relationships. Stop.